counting bullets, destroying files, and one young father's death. No rally was held nor march organised. Douglas Higginbottom made the mistake of being shot and killed by the RCMP almost 50 years too early. On April 28, 1971, a 20-year-old RCMP constable had lost track of a suspicious vehicle he was following just outside of Clinton, BC, when he heard a loud bang and saw a flash on the pavement. Although no bullet was recovered from the scene or photo evidence collected, the RCMP were convinced that someone had taken a shot at the officer. According to RCMP occurrence detachment reports filed that day, a senior officer stated, "It appears that this may have been done by Higginbottom, and that members have been advised that if he is seen to pick him up for questioning." Despite the absence of any physical evidence or eyewitness testimony, Douglas Higginbottom, 32, a young father and ranch hand, became the main suspect. His criminal record, peppered with minor offences against motor vehicle branch and liquor board violations, brought him in contact with the police every few months for most of his adult life. According to family and friends, there was a long-standing mutual grudge between police and Higginbottom. In a phone interview with Rose Heller, Higginbottom's common-law wife, she explained it would have been impossible for Douglas Higginbottom to have taken a shot at the RCMP because she and Higginbottom were in the mountains corralling wild horses at the time of the alleged shooting. In the early afternoon of May the 4th, Rose and Douglas went to their mother's house. Shortly after their arrival, the same young constable who believed Higginbottom had taken a potshot at him showed up alone to pick up Douglas for questioning. Douglas's only request was that he be able to grab a quick shave and change his shirt before they went to the station. The constable placed him in the front seat, passenger side, and just minutes after they drove away, Douglas was shot 7 times and lay dying on the side of the road, and the young constable, shot in the stomach, was being raced to the hospital in a patrol car. According to a statement the young constable made the day after while he lay at the Royal Inland Hospital's intensive care unit in Kamloops, BC, he had shot Douglas Higginbottom 5 times, reloaded, then shot him twice more. He, Douglas, was sitting in the passenger side when he hit me and nearly knocked me out. I could faintly feel his hand taking my gun out of my holster, and I grabbed for it. He opened the door and tried to get out, and I hung on to him. I was half in and half out of the car when he shot me. Pulled the trigger. Both my hands were on the revolver, when he pulled the trigger. This was the right-hand side door of the police car. He had the butt of the gun and I had the barrel. I knew I had been shot. Then I fell towards the ground and jerked the gun out of his grasp. He was after it, and I was trying to keep it in my possession. At this time, I pulled the trigger until it clicked, and there were no shells left in it. I believe I had 6 shots in the gun. I know I had 5 anyways. He started off towards the back of the police car. I started after him, and he fell. When I saw him fall, I thought he had it. So I started back towards the car and fell twice before I radioed for help. I got out of the car and was going towards him when he started to get up. I pulled the trigger again and the gun clicked. I know the gun was empty, so I emptied it out and I only had time to put 2 more rounds in. I fired at him twice more as he was coming towards me. He was only a few feet away from me when I fired the second time." End quote. British Columbia's First Nations community, already reeling from 3 young white men being fined $200 for the rape and murder of Rosemary Roper years earlier, had had enough. And in June of 1971, the British Columbia Native Brotherhood recruited lawyer Henry Costello to represent the Higginbottom family at the coroner's inquest. Upon review of the files, he would find that the first documented allegations by RCMP that Higginbottom had threatened to kill members of this detachment as well as numerous other local people and has a history of violence were made the day after Higginbottom was shot and killed. This raised obvious questions for the lawyer. Why would the young constable arrive alone to pick up somebody who had threatened to kill cops and taken a shot at him? Who would let an alleged violent criminal go and have a shave? Why would you put them in the front passenger seat? Costello was also troubled that the location of Higginbottom's murder was the only possible site in the area where there were no eyewitnesses. In addition to that, Rose Haller had told him and also testified at the coroner's inquest that Douglas lay there wounded on the side of the road for hours without medical attention. Costello quickly became convinced that Higginbottom's death had been a roadside execution. According to Royal Canadian Mounted Police records, during heavy cross-examination by Mr. Costello, he stressed the following points. A. That Higginbottom may have lived for a few hours and no attempt was made to get medical aid for him. B. That the shooting of Higginbottom was planned and that Royal Canadian Mounted Police Constable Baton had laid in wait and shot him, attending at the scene later. C. That Higginbottom was shot at long range, attempting to escape from Constable Turon's custody. D. That there was a personal vendetta existing by the police against Higginbottom. It didn't matter what Costello did, he was never going to win. He made the same mistake as Douglas Higginbottom. He was 50 years too early. It took just 5 minutes for an all-white coroner's jury to deliver their verdict. We, the jury, find that Douglas Alfred Higginbottom's death was a result of gunshot wounds on the 4th of May, AD 1971 at Clinton on a gravel road leading to the Kelly Lake Road. Records show that the RCMP shared Costello's concern about Higginbottom's shooting. Handwritten notes are found in the RCMP's Higginbottom file questioning their official version of events. There are 2 handwritten notes. I'll read the text firstly from note 1. The const, shortened for constable, who shot Higginbottom said he shot with his left hand. If they were struggling, why wasn't the wounds be on the right side? Question mark. End of note 1. Note 2. The const that did the shooting said there were 6 bullets in the gun. They were all shot. Plus he, the constable, shot 2 more. Yet this guy say he examined 7 cartridges. Am I not correct? Question mark, question mark, question mark. End of the second note. Halfway through the file is a typewritten note, and the note reads, and I quote, "Dear Jim, please destroy when you have taken the information you need. Signed, George." A decade after Douglas Higginbottom was shot and killed at the side of the road, the RCMP Archives Unit sent a request to the Clinton RCMP detachment. Quote, "Upon reviewing the headquarters file for disposition, it is felt this is an interesting case for permanent retention." Close quote. They were informed that the files relating to the above occurrence had been destroyed and we are unable to comply.